Robert Oppenheimer was one of this country's greatest scientists, father of the atomic bomb, a victim of the McCarthy witch hunts, one complicated and fascinating man. And he's now the subject of a new film by director Christopher Nolan. Jeffrey Brown spoke to Nolan earlier this week for our Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
Played by actor Cillian Murphy, Robert Oppenheimer comes to very large life in a film that is star-studded and action-packed. But for director Christopher Nolan, it was the internal human conflict at its core that first grabbed him.
It's genuinely the most dramatic story I know of that I've ever encountered, either fiction or real life. So to me, taking on this person who changed the world irrevocably, I really warmed to the challenge of trying to jump into his head.
I understand you even wrote the script in the first person?
Instead of saying, Oppenheimer comes into the room, sits down at his desk, it says, I came into the room, I sat down at my desk. I felt that way we'd be on a journey with Oppenheimer's story towards understanding rather than judgment.
Nolan based his drama on American Prometheus, the 2006 Pulitzer Prize-winning biography by Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin, highlighting the ethical choices that played out in the very real time of World War II, with unknowable consequences on the ground and in the atmosphere, here between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein.
What do you take it to mean?
Neutrons smash into nucleus, releasing neutrons to smash into other nuclei. Criticality, point of no return, massive explosive force. But this time, the chain reaction doesn't stop.
It would ignite the atmosphere.
When we detonate an atomic device, we might start a chain reaction that destroys the world.
I wanted to put the audience in the position of scientists asked by their government, by the military, to help in a race against the Nazis, to unleash the power of the atom. And that's where the ethics come in, is in a situation where you truly have no choice. Because you can't allow the Nazis to have a nuclear bomb, or be the first to have a nuclear bomb. What then are your responsibilities as a scientist for something that was necessary and consequences that are, whether unintended or not, that perhaps inevitable? But in bringing this thing into the world, it raises all kinds of thorny questions about the responsibility of creators for the technology that they unleash on the world.
At 52, the British-born LA-based Nolan is a powerhouse in his world, with blockbuster hits like Inception and Interstellar that bend time and space, the Dark Knight trilogy that reimagined the Batman superhero classic, and the historical epic Dunkirk. His films have grossed some $5 billion worldwide. In Oppenheimer, he took on new cinematic challenges, foregoing computer-generated imagery, filming all the effects, using newly developed black and white as well as color IMAX film, even in extreme close-ups of characters' faces. The look and experience you're giving us, are they as important to you as the story, or do they somehow go hand in hand?
Well, to me, they absolutely go hand in hand. Cinema is this fusion of sound, images, music, humanity, shift in perspective from the subjective to the objective. I like to shoot celluloid film because it's still the closest analogy to the way the eye sees. It's the highest quality imaging format if you're shooting large format film. So even when it came to things like Oppenheimer's visualizations of atoms, the quantum world, and the thread of that had to run through to its ultimate expression in the atomic bomb itself. I wanted those to be analog. I wanted those to be real things we could photograph.
The first atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, ending the war, though debate has continued whether Japan was already set to surrender. The final death toll, uncertain as well, was at least 200,000. Oppenheimer was left a public hero, a world-famous figure, but one racked with doubts about what he and his colleagues had done. He would argue against the creation of the even more powerful hydrogen bomb, and amid the toxic Cold War brew of the 1950s, see his loyalty challenged and in a final humiliation have his security clearance revoked. Nolan is well aware of contemporary resonances, including the advent of AI, a potentially world-changing technology unleashed without an understanding of potential consequences. Do you worry that history is repeating itself?
I take some comfort in learning that the leading AI researchers literally refer to this moment right now as their Oppenheimer moment. They're looking to his story for some kind of guidance about the role and responsibility of the creator of a piece of technology. But of course, as a filmmaker, not as a documentary maker, not as a politician, I'm making a dramatic experience for the audience. I'm trying to give them a thrill ride. It's weird to use the word entertainment in relation to a story that's so serious, but entertainment in cinema is about engagement with a story, and my job as a filmmaker is to pull the audience in for this very, very dramatic story. And I think it raises a lot of relevant and troubling questions, but it doesn't provide any easy answers.
Oppenheimer it's a huge story. It's a hugely important story. It's a 3-hour film. You're an ambitious storyteller, filmmaker, an ambitious man.
The thing I love about movies, the thing I love about the cinema screen is movies can literally be anything, any kind of story. And certainly, there's always been an understanding in the history of movies that this kind of story can be told on this scale for an audience. Am I ambitious to go ahead and do that? I mean, yes, certainly. But also, you know, history is on my side in terms of there are a lot of great examples of movies that we love that are more serious, but do present a different type of entertainment. It's a tricky word, as I say. I prefer to say engagement, but you know, that's what we're doing. We're telling a very big, very important story, using the tools to put it on the biggest screen possible.
Robert Oppenheimer died in 1967 at age 62. Christopher Nolan is now telling his story in theaters worldwide. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown in New York.